Did you know depression could be used for good? I always like to see the positive in everything that goes on inside of me. It just cuts down on my shame. But today I want to talk about something that most people don't think about as a positive. I want to talk about depression and how sometimes we use it. Now, is it a good driver? No. Is it something I recommend you use? No. But we use it all the same. So check out this video. Let's look at how we use depression. Hi, I'm Brett, your favorite shrink, and welcome. Welcome back to My 5 Minds. Today I want to talk a little bit or tell a kind of a story about a case that came through the other day I thought was really interesting, and I thought you would kind of enjoy and maybe even relate to a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about a guy who comes in who was suffering with depression. Now, I have been treating this guy for probably 3-4 months, and he has been making phenomenal progress, doing really well. He comes in each week reporting how great things are, how awesome things are, how much better his life has been. And then this one week, he walks in and he's down, and he's feeling kind of bummed, and his energy's all off. And so my natural curiosity kicks in, and I think, well, what's going on? What's happening? And I'm waiting for something big. I'm waiting for some crisis, death in the family, some really sad event going on. And I don't hear any of that. And it just piques my curiosity even more. What's going on? Well, he had a doctor's appointment the other day, and the doctor said his cholesterol's kind of high. Now, you have to understand, this guy is a young guy, 26 years old, supervisor at a in-house call center where he's doing tech support. He's worked up the ranks. He's done really, really well. He's got a new family. His baby just got born probably 3-4 months ago. House. I mean, everything you can think of. This guy is doing great. He is really starting to excel in his life. And things are going great. So I'm like, what's going on? And he tells me about this cholesterol. He's at the doctor. The doctor says, for your age, your cholesterol shouldn't be this high. You probably should think about exercise, maybe a little bit of medication, but you want to stay on top of it because you don't want 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road to get sick or to have this turn into a huge problem. And he's bummed about it. And I say, tell me more. What else is going on? Well, work's a little bit of a problem. As a supervisor, his co-supervisor left town because of a vacation, and he had to cover. So he had to cover his guys and also cover these guys. And so he's not been as productive as he'd like to be. Okay, tell me more. And then he talks about how the baby's kind of sleep schedule is still settling in, and they're not getting perfect sleep at home. Okay, that sounds kind of normal. And then the whopper, the big thing, the finale, the thing that's really upsetting him the most. He feels like he's not doing enough with his life. Tell me more. Then he talks about how he wants to be a writer. He wants to go out and he wants to really take his creative talents and do something more with it than just be stuck here at this call center. And I think, okay, that makes sense. But none of it, did you hear? None of it added up to the depression he's feeling. As we looked through, and you may want to review that video we did on the Thinkerator, as we look through our Thinkerator, we can see that these things are 1s and 2s. They're pretty low. They're not significant. But yet the depression and the energy he's feeling, the collapse he's feeling, it's probably 6, 7. So where's the other 5 coming from in terms of his upset? These are 1s and 2s. He's a 6 or 7. what's going on? So as we start talking and just kind of chit-chatting, I had a thought. And the thought was, well, this guy's been suffering and struggling with depression all of his life, and yet been able to overcome it, yet kind of pushed himself through it. And the thought came to me, well, maybe he needs to do a lot more work with his past and childhood. Maybe he needs to work a lot more on dealing with his alcoholic dad and things like that. Maybe. Or maybe he's learned a pattern. He's learned that to get things done, what he does is he uses his depression. His depression is a driver for him, a motivator for him. The pressure builds, the pressure builds, the pressure builds. He gets more and more upset, more and more discouraged, depressed. And then he launches. He launches into this reactive response. And he's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't take this anymore. And then he creates massive change for his life. That's the pattern he's always done. Maybe that's the pattern he's doing now. He's listed 3 or 4 things that he wants to change about himself or things that he wants to change about his life. They're not significant, but he doesn't yet know how to change them. So what does he do? Consciously, unconsciously, he falls back. He falls back into his old patterns of using depression. Now, a little tricky moving forward because I don't want to just confront him. I don't want to just blast him and say, this is what you're doing and look at that's going on. Yeah, that's not my style. So I said, okay, well, let's do a little bit of a process with this. Let's see if we can better know where this is coming from, better understand what's going on. And so first thing I had him do was I had him visualize himself at work. And I wanted to see kind of the duality that he plays. You'd never know he's depressed. He's a supervisor. He walks around with a smile on his face and his energy's high and he's always telling people how great they are. And he's always trying to motivate them and encourage them. So he doesn't show his depression. He hides his depression. And so I said, well, I want you to imagine yourself at work, and I want you to imagine there's this kind of facade, this mask, this image, maybe even a hologram that's kind of projected out around you. And then I want you to see yourself as you really are. See yourself depressed, your head down, your eyes down, sad and sulky, upset, and nobody else sees that because it's behind the hologram. It's behind the image. But it's what you see. It's the way you picture yourself. Just notice how you are. Notice how you interact with people. Notice what's going on internally and see the dichotomy, what's happening. Now, what I'm doing in this exercise is a couple things. One, he is in he's in a pattern, but he's in his thinking brain, and he's never going to find answers to this pattern in his thinking brain. I don't even know his thinking brain is going to be able to see the pattern. So what I want to do is I want to pull him out of his left neocortex, the analytical brain, and I want to bring him up into his conscious brain, and I also want to engage the right neocortex, his creative brain, creative mind. And by getting his creativity going, it's going to help him come up with a creative answer and a creative solution, because this isn't a logical problem. And logic mind, it's not going to help us that much. Creative mind, much more so. So as he's picturing himself, seeing himself in this dichotomy, I noticed that on the couch next to him, there's a hat. And the hat has all these superheroes, sketches of different superheroes on them. And I think, okay, this guy is a superhero buff. And I kind of knew that already. And so as he detached himself, as he created a third-person point of view on himself at work, and he could see himself kind of down there, I said, now as you see that guy, what superpower does he have? What power is he using right now to generate change, to create change in his life? And at first he didn't understand what I was talking about, because he thinks depression is bad. He thinks depression is negative. He thinks depression is not very useful. He's been using depression for all of his life. It's very useful for him. So I said, well, what if what if his superpower is depression? What if this guy here, and again, I'm trying to keep him in third person by talking third person. What if this guy here uses depression to motivate himself, to get himself going, to get himself to create change? And as we looked at that, as we thought about that, we started to think about, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's the way he's always done it. He's always used depression or anxiety to try and push himself forward. And he begins to see it because he's out of the pattern. He's looking at the pattern third person. And so then we started having a little bit more fun. And I said, well, can you imagine what your superhero would look like? What kind of costume he'd wear if depression was his superpower? We obviously came up with something in black, something kind of morbid, maybe something kind of gothy with kind of fishnet stocky kind of, I don't know, tattoos, slick back hair. We tried to play with all kinds of ideas around it. But again, what we want to do is create creativity in his right neocortex to get him laughing, to get him joking, to get him to have fun. And as we started doing that, I said, okay, well, let's assume that this superpower is not the best superpower in the world. There's a big stretch. See, now I'm not fighting his superpower. Now I'm not getting a conflict going with his depression. He's buying in. Yeah, not the best superpower in the world. And so we began to play with what would be better. What would be a better superpower? And at first we just started to imagine this energy inside of him. Glowing, bright energy. Like a light. Like a star. Yeah, he wanted to be a star. He wanted to be a star at work. He wanted to be a star at home. He wanted to be a star in life in terms of writing and doing all of this kind of stuff. Yeah, he could start to imagine that bright light shining through him. And as he imagined that bright light shining through him, he could feel his energy beginning to shift, beginning to create flow, beginning to create more excitement for him. And then he could see that the facade, the hologram that he had started to dissolve away, and it became more authentic. He really was power. He really was excited. He really was enthusiastic. He really was ready to help people. And his new superpower became excitement and became success. He really wanted to be successful. It's always what's driven him. And by using that driver of success and feeling himself successful as opposed to feeling himself successless and feeling himself depressed, he's starting with a full tank. And that full tank is going to give him energy to move forward and to accomplish the goals he has. Now, guess what? Homework time. Homework for you. I want you to do the same. I want you to look at the negative things in your life. And I want you to play with an idea that maybe you use those negatives, depression, anxiety, fear, anger, stress. You use those things as your superpower to get things done, to create change in your life, to get yourself so miserable, so upset, so distressed that you're not willing to do this anymore. And then it pushes you. I want you to look at how you do that to yourself. Maybe have fun coming up with your own superhero costume. And then switch it. Switch it to something that's going to work better for you. Love, joy, happiness, success. Just excitement, connection. Whatever works for you. Whatever your real joy is. Use that. See that as your new superpower. And begin to fill yourself with it now. And let that fullness drive you. Don't seek it. Don't try to get it. Don't try to fill your tank. Start with your tank already full by focusing on the feelings you want. And then let them drive you forward. Now, if you like this video, I want you to like the video. If you want to learn more about changing drivers, your patterns, systems with a P, subscribe. I'm Brett, your favorite shrink. Thanks for watching.